This is Patricia welcoming you to the 2135th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline 8th of March 2018. The readers this week are Kathrerin, Ros, Ashleigh and Patricia, with Dem on the controls. The editor was Phillip, and the production and distribution team is Sandra and Peter. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon, Harry Breuer, and performed by Jean-Jacques Perret, and it's used with his kind permission. The local news stories that we'll be reading come from the Enfield Independent and Our Enfield Magazine, and are their copyright. The events information has been collated by us from other sources. The lead story this week is Speeding Drivers Are Blighting Our Street. But before the news, here are the sunrise and sunset times for the week beginning 12th of March. Sunrise, 0621. Sunset, 1759. Do get in touch with us to share your own news and special announcements. We love to hear from you. If you have any comments about the Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020-8805 6578. She is your listener's representative and will be pleased to help you. And now, Ashleigh will read the first item of local news.
Speeding drivers are blighting our street. A road in Enfield has been described as a racetrack by neighbours who have had their walls, cars and homes damaged by dangerous drivers at least once a month. Kay Kereku, 32, who lives in Hedge Lane with her parents and her 3-year-old son, had her wall knocked down by a reckless driver. Miss Kereku says that as well as motorists smashing into properties and parked cars, pedestrians have also been knocked over by speeding cars. She said, as soon as they hit Hedge Lane, there are no limits. They see that there are no speed cameras or anything and just use the stretch of road as a racetrack and lose control, especially in this weather. We have elderly people and young families living along this road. My neighbours opposite have been left with no choice but to move. Their wall has been knocked down so many times. It's just not safe for them. The frustrated mother of one said a few years ago a woman was pushing her baby in a pram and a speeding car veered off the road and missed her by inches. Ms. Kiroku has insisted people just want the council and police to take the matter seriously and put in cameras, bollards or speed humps. She said, it's not much to ask. We just want to live in a safer street. They've put a slow down sign up, but that hasn't done anything. There are schools and parks nearby. It's just so dangerous. Bourne Hill, the stretch of road that connects to Hedge Lane, has had speed cameras put in place, and according to Miss Kirikou, the difference is unparalleled. An Enfield spokesperson said, we are aware that speeding can be an issue in Hedge Lane, in common with many other roads in the borough, and we are working with our partners in the Metropolitan Police and Transport for London to reduce vehicles driving dangerously and at excessive speed across the borough. We have installed signage on the road to encourage motorists to abide by the speed limit, and we are looking at whether other measures are needed to reduce vehicle speeds. The Metropolitan Police and the Transport for London set the criteria for the introduction of speed cameras, and we have passed residents' requests for cameras onto relevant departments for consideration.
Council to install sprinklers in Enfield's tower blocks. Work on installing sprinklers in the 54 high-rise housing blocks managed by Enfield Council will start this year. The project, expected to cost in the region of £8 million or £3,000 per property, will be paid for by Enfield Council. However, the authority is lobbying the government to fund the scheme, which has been introduced in the aftermath of the Grenfell Tower fire in Kensington and Chelsea, claiming the lives of 71 people. Although Enfield Council managed blocks are fire resistant and comply with all relevant safety regulations, installing sprinklers will increase the speed with which fires can be dealt and reassure residents that the council is doing everything it can to keep their families as safe as possible. Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Housing and Housing Regeneration, Councillor Imet Okina, said, "We take the safety of all our residents extremely seriously, and although our high-rise blocks are extremely safe, we think it is sensible and proportionate to install sprinkler systems in them to further reduce the likelihood of a serious fire breaking out. The Grenfell Tower fire shocked the nation, and it would be a complete dereliction of duty for us to do nothing in the aftermath of that terrible tragedy."
Wise wins top competitor. Winners of Greenbelt Motor Club's 15 Motorsport Championships were presented with their trophies by Club President Jerry Thurlow at its annual dinner on Saturday. Enfield saloon car racing driver Malcolm Wise, who is Greenbelt's chairman, won the Jackson Trophy for the club's best motor racing competitor. He competed in his 500 horsepower turbocharged Ford Escort Cosworth in the Brands Hatch-based Modified Saloon Car Championships last year. Although Wise only finished in half of the races, he was very much a front runner in nearly all of those outings, recording 5 second places, 2/3 and a 4th. These results were also good enough to earn him second place in the Trent Park Trophy, which is the club's toughest championship. It goes to the competitors who put up the best set of performances in 15 events, which can be in any type of motorsport. Greenbelt's competitions secretary, Chris Deal from Edmonton, walked away with 4 trophies from the awards. He gained first and second place finishes in the club's championships for co-drivers on multi-venue and single-venue stages. Deal also collected the award for second place in the Clubman's Trophy, which goes to the club's best competitor in various types of motorsports, while his 4th award was for being joint winner of the club's treasurer, the Warner Selmick Memorial Trophy.
Shisha lounge owner fined for disturbing neighbours. The owner of a shisha lounge who made his neighbours' lives a misery by repeatedly blasting out music and allowing his clients to smoke in enclosed areas has received a hefty fine. The owner of Hayati Shisha in Palmer's Green has been ordered to pay almost £12,000 by Enfield Council for multiple offences relating to safety, health, licensing and planning. Ayman Abu Elanin El-Shabeni, 47, of Green Lanes, pleaded guilty to 14 offences at Highbury Corner Magistrates Court 2 weeks ago, after failing to change his ways, despite numerous visits and warnings by enforcement officers. In 2017, Hayati Shisha was visited on 7 occasions by the out-of-hours noise service and out-of-hours licensing enforcement teams, investigating reports of loud music. As well as finding that the music was disturbing neighbours, officers also discovered hot refreshments being served without a premise licence, shisha pipes being smoked in almost fully enclosed areas, and an outdoor space being used as a seating area, contrary to a previous enforcement notice served in 2010.
Rumpus raised over quieter roads scheme. Angry residents are making a lot of noise about a council scheme designed to make their roads quieter. People in Winchmore Hill have voted overwhelmingly against the Fernley Road Quieter Neighbourhood scheme, which, if implemented, would see the speed limit reduced to 20 miles per hour speed bumps and a series of one-way systems. The work, which is part of the conscientious cycle in Enfield programme, is yet to be approved, but residents feel their views have been ignored. Helen Osman of Old Park Ridings, founder of N21online.com, said, "The first consultation ended in November and people overwhelmingly voted against this scheme. They don't want the one-way systems and speed humps. What the council doesn't seem to realise is when you slow traffic or direct it away from one road, then drivers find another road and the problem is displaced, not solved. If approved, the scheme would see Eaton Park Road become one-way, speed bumps on Fernley Road, Ratcliffe Road and Woodbury Avenue, and no entry restrictions for vehicles on Woodside Court and Stonard Road. There would be a part-time band left turn on Station Road with Radcliffe Road and Ringwood Way at certain times during the week. Ms Osborne added, "People are sick to death of constant consultation in Winchmore Hill, and then the council largely ignoring their objections. People have until March 18th to make comments on the second phase of the consultation." An Enfield Council spokeswoman said, "The Quieter Neighbourhood scheme is part of the £42 million Cycle Enfield programme, primarily funded by the Mayor of London and Transport for London, and is part of our ongoing plans to regenerate our high streets and town centres, and encourage more active and environmentally friendly forms of travel for all." Enfield Council carried out an informal consultation on a proposed Fernley Road quieter neighbourhood towards the end of 2017. As a result of the initial feedback, we have amended the proposals, taking into account the various views expressed. We have now moved onto a statutory consultation phase where we have outlined our revised proposals, and residents can now clearly outline their views on the specific range of traffic calming measures we have highlighted. No decisions have as yet have been taken and will not be taken until all comments have been collated. The consultation closes at midnight on Sunday, March 18th.
Idlers told to cut it out at school pickup time. Budding environmentalists came up with innovative ways to stop drivers leaving their car engines running to help stamp out air pollution and associated health problems. Pupils at George Spicer Primary School teamed up with Enfield Council to promote park and ride strategies and walking to school. George Spicer came up with several fun and innovative ways to promote their Idling Action Day, including a Snakes and Ladders information game. In addition, volunteers and council officers were out in force at the school gates in Southbury Road to advise those collecting children why they should not leave their car engines running. Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for the Environment, Councillor Daniel Anderson, said, "If every motorist just switched off their engine while waiting for someone, it would dramatically improve our air quality and lessen the detrimental impacts of pollution. This relatively minor change in our behaviour, particularly while on the school run, would have a massive impact on our collective carbon footprint. I would, of course, also encourage parents and their kids to consider other, more environmentally friendly methods of travelling to school. For instance, why not walk with a group of friends, cycle, or perhaps even scoot? There are simple, easy changes we can all make to our lifestyles that together would substantially improve Enfield's air quality."
An Enfield Council project has reduced the cost of placing families in temporary accommodation by £2.5 million since it was set up. In 2014, Housing Gateway started buying homes where homeless people seeking temporary accommodation could be placed. It aimed to reduce the amount of money Enfield Council spent on placing families in expensive nightly paid accommodation. To date, the company has bought 418 homes and expects to purchase its 500th property by June next year. Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Finance and Efficiency, Councillor Dino Lemonides, said, "Housing Gateway is a real success story. It has enabled us to save a significant amount of cash which we can use elsewhere and give us assets we can sell on if we want to."
And now a letter from Richard Turner under the heading Loss of Trade. "I am incensed by David Hughes' letter, Give It Time, opinion, February the 28th, where he comments with unsubstantiated assumptions that businesses that suffered extreme losses due to Cycle Enfield's construction work were already on the financial edge. My vibrant business and others on Bush Hill Parade were subjected to an indiscriminate use of barriers and almost total loss of parking for 11 weeks. During this time, our parade had nearly 1,000 metres of those barriers blocking our shops from passing traffic and pedestrians. Almost immediately our sales nosedived, and in total we suffered a 25% drop in sales and lost almost £19,000. Other businesses on this parade hit a 60% loss of trade. To date, nearly 11 months after the barriers were removed, our trade has still not recovered. Our parade is still quieter than normal, and our January sales were lower than in 2017, when the barriers were in place. The simple fact is that consumer shopping habits are very much driven by convenience, and similarly, when new habits are formed, they tend to persist. Drivers who abandoned the A105 during the construction works have not returned. It is this that has driven the ruinous drop in turnover along the A105. How much more time does David Hughes suggest businesses allow for the disruptive change in consumer habits caused by Cycle Enfield to return to normal? And how many will be able to survive that long? And Richard Turner is the manager of Lord's DIY in Bush Hill Parade.
My son has not got a school place. A boy has been without a school since November last year because there are no spaces available for him. Sarah Dorman, 28, from Enfield Island Village, moved to Seven Sisters in April last year, but moved back in November. Since returning, she has not been able to get her son Reed, 8, a place any of the primary schools in the area that she has applied for due to lack of spaces. The desperate mother has applied to around 7 primary schools in her area, but has still not had any success. She has contacted the council and is working with social services in a bid to get Reed into education, but feels that she has not been helped. She said, "Enfield Council are not pulling their weight. It's ridiculous. I've asked for a tutor so that he doesn't fall behind while we wait, but they have said not to do that. My fear is that when he does get into school, he's going to be so behind. It's affected my job. I'm not able to work because I have to look after him when he should be in school. I feel like I've got nowhere to turn to. I don't know what to do." She said that she had been told by the council that she has to stay within a certain range of where she lives, which she has done. After being told to fill applications for the schools she has been plagued with constant rejection letters and told that she would be put on the waiting list. Enfield Council was contacted and declined to comment on the situation.
Much needed school secures hospital site. A new school is to be built on part of the Chase Farm Hospital site in a bid to address the severe shortage of secondary school places. The announcement to open a second Wren Academy in brand new buildings on part of the Chase Farm Hospital site in the Ridgeway Enfield was made 2 weeks ago. It is expected to open in September next year, subject to planning approval, in temporary buildings until the main school building is completed. A spokesman for the Wren Academy said, "Since the announcement of the successful bid to open the school, representatives of the Department for Education have been working with Wren Academy staff to secure a site for the much-needed school." Wren Academy's executive principal, Gavin Smith, who is head of Wren Academy Finchley, said, "I am pleased that after much careful planning and hard work, we have secured a site for Wren Academy Enfield. We are very excited about the prospect of starting another outstanding academy with a unique Christian ethos. The academy will open with 240 Year 7 students."
Chris's journey from 24 stone to 26 miles. A bricklayer who once tipped the scales at nearly 24 stone is preparing to run his first London marathon. Chris Hootris, 48, will be taking part in a 26.2-mile race in April to raise as much money as he can for the North London Hospice, where his terminally ill father-in-law is being cared for. He's raised £1,000 already and hopes to make another £4,000 for the charity that provides palliative and end-of-life care for patients and their families. Not only does he want to raise money for the cause close to his heart, but running a marathon is something he could only dream of a year and a half ago before he shed 12 stone. Mr. Hootris of River Avenue, Palmer's Green, said, "I've always been a big fella. I ate and drank a lot. But then I had a heart scare and my doctor told me if I didn't lose weight, I would die. I took the decision to have surgery, which involved having 80% of my stomach removed. Since then, I've taken up cycling, I've gone to the gym, I run, things I would never have considered. I've lived in the same street in Palmer's Green all my life, and since I've lost all the weight, I've had friends walk past me. They literally don't recognise me. Mr. Hootris is hoping to run the marathon in under 5 hours, but he says for him it's all about taking part, something he never imagined possible. To donate to his fundraising page, go to https://uk.virginmoneygiving.com/Chris Hootris. That's CHRISHOUTRIS.
Disco and soul to storm the stage this weekend. After a sellout performance by Coldplace, the world's top-ranked Coldplay tribute band, one of the country's leading disco and soul acts are now set to perform in Enfield. The six-piece group Mojo Rising will perform at the Black Barn at Forty Hall this Saturday, 10th of March. Mojo Rising frontman Lee Martin explains, "We started the band about 6 years ago, having actually discovered one another online. It was one of those weird situations where we were all looking for a band. My idea for the concept was that if you went to a party, how you can have a live act that performs like a DJ. We do our own mixing, and it's about keeping the dance floor going at all times instead of stop-start. Sometimes we do 25 minutes without stopping. Between them, the singers have years of experience performing in West End productions such as Fame, Grease and the Blues Brothers, with the rest of the band made up of musicians who've made appearances at the likes of Ronnie Scott's, the 100 Club and even on BBC Radio." Lee adds, "We've known about the Black Barn for some time and have always wanted to play there. The problem is we've been so busy, but we're delighted we've found a date. All the band are soul, funk and disco freaks, which some people might find somewhat unusual, given the fact that we're all aged around the 30 mark. Not many bands of that age play that kind of music." Tickets priced £10 for the Mojo Rising are available either on the door or in advance from livestockuk.com. Doors open at 7 p.m, with the music getting underway at 7:30, starting with a support act.
Livestock, right here. Livestock, Enfield's answer to Glastonbury, returns for the 7th year this summer and promises to be bigger and better than ever. The annual community-organised not-for-profit festival takes place on 21st of July at Forty Hall Farm and features 3 stages along with bars, food stands and children's entertainment. The event began as a small street party in nearby Goats Lane when residents built a stage at the end of their road for local musicians. It was opened by the mayor of the time and has since grown into North London's most eagerly awaited musical extravaganza. Despite the foul weather, last year's Livestock attracted almost 2,000 revellers, including Enfield Mayor Councillor Christine Hamilton, who rates it as the unmissable musical event in the borough. Early bird tickets for this hugely popular all-day family spectacle are on sale for £15 at www.livestockuk.com. Advance tickets are £20, while pay on the day tickets will cost £25. Kids under 11 go free, while tickets for 11 to 15-year-olds are £5.
Nurseries' celebration of books and storytelling. Tiny pirates, princesses, and a whole menagerie of animals appeared at a nursery last week as staff and children staged a celebration of World Book Day. Woodbury Day Nursery in Winchmore Hill, Enfield, adopted different themes for their celebrations and activities, with the preschool room opting for characters from their favourite book, The Gruffalo, by Julia Donaldson. Deputy Manager Emma Trodd said the annual event is a favourite with both children and staff because everybody dresses up and gets creative. She said storytelling is an important part of all activity at Woodbury and goes way beyond encouraging a love of reading and books. It is a vital tool in enhancing self-esteem and confidence in young children while nurturing imagination and creativity.
Mum's excruciating challenge. Mother of Two is putting her best foot forward to raise thousands of pounds for a charity which provides wheelchairs for young people. January Jones Omatajo of Wellfield Avenue, Muswell Hill, will be taking part in the London Marathon on April the 22nd to raise as much money as she can for WizKids, a UK charity that funds wheelchairs and opportunities for children. Last year, her first London Marathon was really tough when she ran against the advice of 3 doctors. She only just managed to complete the gruelling 26.2-mile race following a severe injury that required weeks of physiotherapy. So she is confident that this year's race will be a walk in the park. She said, "I'm not pushing myself as hard as I did last year. I wasn't very sensible, really, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. But I met some families from WizKids charity and saw how having a wheelchair liberates them, and that drives you on during the tough times. I'm actually really looking forward to it." Ahead of the race, she is holding a fundraising evening for WizKids, where she'll be auctioning boxing memorabilia, including Anthony Joshua's boxing glove, some Alexander McQueen sportswear, and restaurant vouchers and beauty treatments. She added, "Although I managed to finish the race, it was excruciatingly painful." The event is Saturday, March the 17th in Farringdon at Harold and Sons with DJ Aaron Francis Walker, and all proceeds will go to the WizKids charities, and everyone is welcome. If you wish to buy tickets, go to www.january.rocks.
And now we have news for swimmers over the age of 50. There are some swimming sessions coming up at the David Lloyd Centre. Calling all competent swimmers capable of swimming lengths. These sessions are ideal if you're looking to improve your stroke technique and swimming skills with a qualified coach on hand to offer tips. They say do please bring locker money along with you if you wish to use one. There are 3 sets of sessions. The first set is on a Monday morning, Monday the 16th of April, runs till Monday the 9th of July, from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock in the morning, a 50 minutes swimming session. And that excludes the 2 May bank holidays, 7th and 28th of May. There's another set of sessions which run on Tuesday mornings, Tuesday the 17th of April to the 10th of July, at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock, again 50-minute sessions. And finally, sessions on Fridays, from Friday the 20th of April to the 13th of July. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock in the morning, again 50-minute sessions. The cost for these sessions, 11 weeks, is £39.05, and 13 weeks, £46.15. You get information from David Lloyd's, Carterhatch Lane, Enfield, EN1 4LF.
Puss in Boots. Easter pantomime returns to Dugdale, this time with Puss in Boots. Brought to you from the creative team that brought you last year's Red Riding Hood. Join us this March or April for the perfect Easter pantomime. Packed with music, dance, comedy, and of course audience participation. Oh yes, it will. Age suitability is 2 to 103. Wednesday, 28th of March to Sunday, the 15th of April. Various times. Tickets are £14, concessions £12.50, family ticket £48, schools tickets £9.50.
Firsts for females, amazing achievements. As we celebrate International Women's Day, let's look at some truly inspirational role models. Here are 7 particularly pioneering ladies who smashed the glass ceiling to do something incredible. And our first is Amelia Earhart. Earhart is a household name. You'll probably remember her as the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic in 1928, just a year behind Charles Lindbergh, the first person ever to do so. After her success, Earhart became a hugely prominent public figure, nicknamed Queen of the Air. Earhart also became the first person to fly solo from Hawaii to California. She spent much of her career campaigning for women's rights and helped set up a group for female pilots called the 99s. Sadly, Earhart disappeared in 1937 while on an expedition to circumnavigate the globe. Then we have, at number 2, Gertrude Ederle. Ederle makes this list for being the first woman to swim the English Channel. An American, she was the daughter of German immigrants and didn't complete her channel swim on her first try. It was on August 6, 1926, when she made her second attempt, and it took 14 hours and 34 minutes for her to reach Kingsdown in Kent. Swimming front crawl and wearing motorcycle goggles, Ederle's feat was particularly impressive because at that point only 5 men had done it before her. At number 3 we have Valentina Tereshkova. Next up on our list, she is the first woman in space. Valentina Tereshkova was inspired by Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin to volunteer for the Soviet space program and got accepted due to her experience in skydiving. On June 16, 1963, aged just 26, Tereshkova was launched in space in the Vostok 6. The trip saw her orbit the Earth 48 times, and she was in space for over 70 hours. Following this, she became a test pilot and studied technical sciences. Tereshkova carried the Olympic torch in 2008 and 2014 and remains the only woman to have ever been on a solo space mission. At number 4, Aretha Franklin. There are shamefully few women of colour on this list, not because they haven't achieved incredible things, but because historically they've not been afforded the same opportunities as white women, which makes Aretha Franklin's achievement even more impressive. In 1987, she became the first woman inducted, completely different meaning there, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, joining the likes of Buddy Holly, James Brown and Elvis Presley. She went on to become one of the most decorated Grammy artists in history, clocking up 18 awards. At number 5, Kathryn Bigelow. The stats are, quite frankly, depressing when it comes to male and female film directors. As of this year, only 5 women have ever been nominated for the Best Director Oscar, and so against these odds, Kathryn Bigelow's win in 2010 is so impressive. The Hurt Locker, a low-budget movie set during the Iraq War, scooped the gongs for both Best Picture and Best Director. Bigelow beat heavy hitters like James Cameron, her ex-husband, and Quentin Tarantino to win the top prize. At number 6, Christine Lagarde. From the world of film to the world of finance, the two industries have little in common, but both share a diversity problem. In 2016, financial service boards consisted of a mere 20% women, with executive committees faring even worse, with just 16% being female. Yet, French lawyer and politician Christine Lagarde has managed to excel in her career, so much that she became the first woman to head up the International Monetary Fund, a job she has been working at since 2011. And this is no small role. Lagarde is in charge of monitoring economic and financial developments across the world, as well as providing help when needed. She's been vocal about the need for more women in the financial services, telling The Independent that the 2008 crash was partly due to the gender imbalance, saying, "I honestly think that there should never be too much testosterone in one room." And then finally at number 7 is Libby Lane. Don't say we didn't warn you that this was an eclectic list. We've covered women from the worlds of sport, science, film and finance, but what about religion? The church is traditionally quite set on gender roles, and yet Libby Lane managed to break conventions by becoming the first female consecrated bishop in the Church of England. Her appointment was only made possible by the Church's General Synod voting in 2014 in favour of allowing women to become bishops. Libby Lane was consecrated at York Minster in January 2015.
This year is an incredibly important year for residents of Enfield. Not only are there local elections in the borough on the 3rd of May, we will also be marking the centenary of women's right to vote. Enfield Council officially launched its campaign to remind people to vote on the 6th of February, and this special date marks 100 years since the passing of the Representation of the People Act, giving some women the right to vote. In addition, Enfield Council will be marking this special year with the unveiling of a plaque on International Women's Day in Palmer's Green. Palmer's Green played an important part in the emancipation process and the suffragette movement. Keep an eye out for further details of this landmark event. Now, what should you do? The first step to voting is to make sure your name is on the electoral register. Online registration is easy and you only need to register once unless you've changed your name, address or nationality. Simply go to www.gov.uk/register #2 #vote. It only takes 5 minutes and you will need your national insurance number to register. If you are already registered, you don't need to do anything. Just turn up on the 3rd of May 2018 to vote at your allocated polling station. You'll be getting details of this in the post. To find out more about how you can vote and to get more information, do go to www.enfield.gov.uk and search for the electoral services. Follow #Enfield Council on Twitter and #VoteEnfield to find out more about the democratic process and why your vote truly matters.
2 town away trips rearranged. We have football news. Enfield Town's postponed trip to Dorking Wanderers has been rearranged for Thursday, April the 5th, kick-off at 7:45 p.m. Andy Lee's side were due to make the trip to Meadowbank Stadium on Saturday, but the game fell victim to the freezing conditions. Another of the Towners' postponed fixtures, the match at Burgess Hill Town, is now due to be played on Tuesday, March the 20th, with a 7:30 p.m. kick-off. Enfield are set to be back in action this Saturday when they're at home to Lowestoft Town. If you're longing to get out and doing a bit of exercise yourself after all the winter, the snow and the things that have been cancelled, we've details now of some sessions that take place in Broomfield Park in the next few months, aimed at the over 50s. Again, it's Tai Chi in the park. You can take your Tai Chi to the park to unwind in the green spaces of Broomfield Park. These sessions combine gentle movement and meditation. And the Chinese martial art Tai Chi is practiced for both its defense training and its health benefits. It's a great way to while away the morning. Now, there are 2 series of sessions that you can sign up for. One is on Tuesday mornings, an hour from 10:30 in the morning. And that starts on the 24th of April, and the series of sessions runs till the 10th of July. There's another series of sessions that takes place on Wednesday mornings. Same time, 10:30 in the morning for 60 minutes. They run from Wednesday the 25th of April to 11th of July. And for both of those 12-week sessions, it costs £24 if you book for 12 weeks. They take place in Broomfield Park as Alderman's Hill, London N13 4RB.
Further upcoming cultural and entertainment events in Enfield. There are a selection taking place at Muirfield Theatre. To begin with, we have Purple Zeppelin. After smash hit performances, we are delighted to welcome Purple Zeppelin with their brand new show. This time, you can expect an unplugged set to start the show. Sit back and enjoy acoustic instruments comprising well-known songs from both bands. Then, in the second set, they'll plug in and play all the classic hits. So come and experience the excitement of these two great classic bands in one measuring show. And this will be taking place on Saturday, the 17th of March at 7:45 p.m. Tickets, £22. Then following on, we have an evening with Frankie Dettori. Join the horsing legend Frankie Dettori for a special one-man show. The larger-than-life jockey, famed for spectacular jumps off his horses in the paddock after victories, is bringing a great evening of conversation, anecdotes and memories. Come enjoy the conversation. Friday, the 23rd of March, 7:45 p.m. Tickets, £26.50. Then moving along, we have the Spring Festival of Bulgarian Folk and Traditions. The much-loved Spring Festival of Bulgarian folk and Traditions is back. Packed with music, songs, dances and traditional food tasting of this lovely country, you are invited to their 6th annual Spring Festival. This is taking place on Saturday the 24th of March, 2 p.m. Tickets, £15. Under 7s are free. And finally, we have The Searchers. The Searchers' remarkable 5-decade career continues with such classic hits as Sweets for My Sweet, Needles and Pins, Don't Throw Your Love Away, Sugar and Spice, and When You Walk in the Room. They continue to delight fans across the UK. With total record sales in excess of 50 million, The Searchers still have great appeal to audiences of all ages. Their special solo concert is a highly entertaining show and has been enthusiastically and warmly received throughout the world. Combined with anecdotes and reminiscences, this fully self-contained concert includes all of their famous hits, plus many album recordings, B-sides, and a selection of other collector and well-known favourites. It is the perfect time to see The Searchers live in concert. Thursday the 29th of March at 7:45 p.m. Ticket, £22.50.
And now we have a couple of articles by David Pam, which we have taken from the archives of the Enfield Gazette and are just very, very interesting pieces. And the first is entitled Charles Lamb the Hero, albeit imperfect. Charles Lamb was a tragic oddity, saved by a sense of humour. Life had treated him unfairly. There was hereditary madness in the family, and his sister Mary, some 10 years his senior, had stabbed his mother in a wild fit of insanity. By taking responsibility for her care, Charles had secured her release from an asylum. He bore the burden well, with the help of friends and more than the occasional glass to cheer him up through his darkest days. Brother and sister first came to Enfield, then no more than a village, to spend their summer holidays at Mrs. Leishman's cottage on the edge of the former chase, with the New River close at hand. From there, in August 1825, he wrote to a friend, urging a visit, proposing that he should take a bed at an inn, and promising to show him many dainty spots. Coaches from Bishopsgate run hourly to the Rose and Crown in Church Street, Edmonton, he informed his friend, from where it is but an hour's walk to Enfield. Later that summer, still in Gentleman's Row, he wrote, I sat down upon a hillock at 40 Hill yesterday, with 1,000 good speculations about mankind. How I yearned with cheap benevolence. I shall go and inquire of the stone cutter who cuts the tombstones here what a short inscription would cost, just to say, here Charles Lamb loved his brethren of mankind. A few years later, when he retired from the East India Company on a generous pension, feeling that Mary would be happier living in the country, he decided to rent a house in Chase Side. We are fortunate in having an account of the arrival of Charles, Mary and their adopted daughter Emma Isola, thanks to young Thomas Westwood, who was watching from the windows of the house next door. I saw a group of 3 issuing from the Gambagi-looking house near at hand, he wrote. A slim, middle-aged man in quaint, uncontemporary habiliments, a bundle of an old lady in a bonnet like a mob cap, and a young girl. Ahead of them bounded a riotous dog, Thomas Hood's Dash, holding between its teeth the notice declaring, "This house to let." When visiting him, Charles's friends often stayed at the Greyhound, which once stood on the corner of Market Place, where Barclays Bank now is. Charles and Mary Cowden, Clark, stopped there for their honeymoon. She describes the old country inn in her autobiography as having a pleasant sitting room overlooking the village green with its spreading oak tree. The bedroom window, she continues, was screened by a vine which cast a verdant, softened light within. Lamb had been unaware of their presence at the time and wrote to them later, "When you lurked at the Greyhound, Benedicts are close, but how I missed you, going daily for my morning cup of ale, is a mystery." He knew few people in Enfield. Asked for a recommendation for some appointment, he declined with the plea, "My friends are all in the public line, and it might not suit to have your appointment moved in a special vestry by John Gage of the Crown and Horseshoes, and seconded by Joseph Horner of the Green Dragon." But one very firm friend was Dr. Vale Asbury of White Lodge in Silver Street. Among his letters is a delightful apology to Mrs. Asbury, which is too long to quote here. It followed a dinner at White Lodge, at which he had to be carried home to Chase Side on a servant's back, up Parsons Lane at midnight. Charles Lamb's last move was to the cottage in Church Street, Edmonton, where he died. He is buried in the lovely old church at All Saints.
And here's a fascinating account, again by David Pam, about the opening of the very first electric tram. Bunting fluttering in the summer breeze, and a moving pattern of summer bonnets and furbelows all gave the carnival atmosphere to the July day in 1901, when the first electric tram ground its way out of the town and into London Road. Thus wrote that excellent journalist Townsman in the Gazette many years after the event, but he had witnessed the scene himself as a boy at the age of 5. A great display had been put on by the local tradespeople. The town was bedecked from railway station in Southby Road to the end of Church Street, and from the police station in London Road to the vicarage in Silver Street. The route along which the new tram would pass was lined with enthusiastic spectators. Afterwards, a dinner was arranged at the George for the staff and workmen of Mrs. George Wimpey, who had laid the lines. The widening and levelling of Green Lanes had begun in Palmer's Green in the autumn of 1906, and the work proceeded as far as Green Dragon, from where a new roof had been constructed to the end of Church Street at Bush Hill Park. There it joined Village Road, which had been widened to 60 feet. This aroused irate protests from local residents, since it required the loss of some beeches, but new trees were planted to replace them. The route carried out via Park Avenue, skirting St Stephen's Church, and on through open meadows and a golf course into London Road. The sharp turn from London Road into the town required considerable change, and the offices of the Stratford Brewery were swept away, together with half a dozen cottages, part of Mrs. Smith's restaurant and bakery, and an old wooden building half hidden behind the shops, known then as Anachilles. Lines had been laid from the town into Southby Road into the expectation that the system would link up with routes from the Ponders End, but it was never accomplished, and the lines were were later removed. That day, a ceremonial car carrying county council dignitaries and senior staff from the tramway company set out from Green Dragon Lane, and watched by thousands, arrived triumphantly at Enfield town. The early electric trams were open-decked. The lower deck was hardly luxurious on a winter's day. Passengers sat down the sides of the vehicle so that they faced each other. Those with no seats hung onto straps as the car swayed around the bends, and the seats were at least padded, and the vehicle was lit by a row of electric lamps along each side. Upstairs, the seats were wooden slabs, and there was nothing to ward off wind and rain but a piece of canvas fixed to the seat in the front. The back of the seats were hinged so that wherever the way the tram was going, it could be driven from both ends. Passengers could simply face the front. The driver on the open driving platform wore thick gloves, wooden-soled boots, and a very ruddy countenance. The brass handle on which he kept a grip worked the brakes. If his hand came off, then the tram automatically stopped. Over the course of 30 years, they became more sophisticated, but the tram still ran in the middle of the road, which made boarding and alighting increasingly hazardous. The service to Enfield came to an end in May 1938, and the last car, late at night, ended its journey surrounded by hundreds of motorbikes and cars, with men clinging on to the front and rear. It was mobbed by a crowd of souvenir hunters. Seats were torn out, guard ripped off, everything portable was simply carried away. Thus ended the great era of the electric tram car. But now they tell me that in faraway places of our country it's beginning to make a comeback, and we wish it great success.
Well, we've reached the end of our programme for the week now. Thank you for listening. And from the team of Kathrerin, Ros, Ashleigh, Patricia and Dem, it's
Bye-bye.
Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet. Put the memory stick into the packet in a closed position and return it to us as soon as possible, in readiness for the next edition. Don't forget, you can call Deanne de Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with Enfield Talking Newspaper on 020 8805 6578. Coming up next, the latest news and information for the Greater London area from InfoSound. The Enfield Talking Newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.